Every one of these is the same piece of clothing, same mesh, same file, it's the same long sleeve crop top. None of it touched Photoshop, Blender, or anything outside the game itself. In this tutorial, I'll show you everything the garment creator can do. Then we will build all these long sleeve crop top from scratch, so you can fully understand the workflow. Before we begin, you'll notice there's no sexy AI voice this time, just me with my French accent, and hopefully a tutorial that's worth listening to. Hope you enjoy this video. Chapter 1. Controls. Camera controls are simple. You can rotate the mannequin by left-click dragging from side to side, and you can move the camera around by right-click dragging in any direction. You can zoom using the scroll wheel, and you can also tilt the camera up and down by clicking and holding the scroll wheel, then moving the mouse up and down. You can undo an action by pressing F5, Ctrl-Z, or by clicking the undo button in the top bar. You can redo an action by pressing F6, Ctrl-Y, or by clicking the redo button. Finally, you can enter preview mode by pressing F1. In this mode, you can use the arrow keys to rotate the mannequin. You can exit preview mode by pressing F1 again, or by clicking anywhere with your mouse. And that's everything you need to know about the controls. Chapter 2. Zones. When you open a new garment, it will be fully blank, like this. What you need to understand first is that a garment isn't one surface. It's split into zones. For example, this crop top is composed of 4 zones: the front, the back, the left sleeve, and the right sleeve, and every zone is edited separately. A garment can have less or more zones. It depends on which one you picked. So to select a zone to edit, you can either use this drop down or just click directly on the model. If I click the back of the model, there, I selected the back zone, and if I click on the sleeve is now selected. As you can see, when I switch from a zone to another, the shape inside the square is changing. That's because this square is the zone you're editing, the shape inside is the outline of the actual fabric, so you always know where the edge of your zone is. Under the zone viewport, you have a panel named Zone Properties. The 2 first sliders are Metallic and Smoothness. That's your zone surface. By default, they're both set to 0, giving your garment a cotton-like appearance. You can play with them to obtain the result you want. Leather, latex, everything can be achieved. You can even push both sliders to their maximum to get a mirror-like surface that reflects the environment. The third slider, Opacity, controls the transparency of the zone. It's perfect for creating chiffon, mesh, or any sheer fabric. You can even make fishnets and much more by combining it with features we'll cover later in the tutorial. And of course, if you want to get rid of a zone, you can make it fully transparent. Here, no more sleeves. The next property is the base color. It's simply the color of your zone under everything. And finally, the last zone property is this dropdown, the surface normal. Without normal, your surface will look completely flat, which is okay for a lot of use cases, but not for real fabric. If we pick any option from the dropdown, we can see 7 new sliders appearing. Those are the normal properties. And you can also see that now the current zone we are editing on the garment doesn't have a flat surface anymore. The normal slider lets you set the strength of the relief. Tiling controls how many times the normal texture is repeated. A higher value means more repetitions, which results in a smaller weave pattern. You can tile the normal map on the x-axis, the y-axis, or both at once with the XY slider. You can also offset and rotate the normal texture to precisely control its position, for example, to create specific edge effects. Finally, you have the copy normal and the paste normal buttons, which are the equivalent of a Ctrl-C, Ctrl-V, but just for the normal settings. Set up one zone, copy its values, move to another zone, paste them, and you're done. The same normal settings are now applied to another zone, and you can repeat this step as much as you want. And that's everything you need to know about zones. Let's wrap up this chapter and move on to the most interesting part, layers. Chapter 3. Layers. On the right side of your screen, you can see this huge, empty panel called Layers. If you've used any image editor, you already know how this works. At the bottom of the panel, you can either add a new sprite layer or a new text layer. Let's add a sprite. This is the Sprite browser. That's where the Sprite babies come from. We will cover this browser in more detail later in the tutorial. For now, I'll simply pick any sprite, and there you go, it has become a new layer in our panel. There's a toggle on each side of a layer. The eye hides it while the padlock locks it. A locked layer stays visible, but you can't grab it by accident. It's very useful when working with a lot of layers. My advice is that once you've placed something exactly right, lock it. You can double click the name of a layer to rename it. Again, very useful when working with a lot of layers. This button here is to duplicate the currently selected layer, and this one is to delete it. Top of the list is on top of the stack, but you can reorder them at any time by dragging them up and down. Once you delete a layer, it selects the next layer automatically, so you can keep deleting without going back to the list every time. And if you made a mistake and deleted something you wanted to keep, simply undo your error away. Everything you do in the garment creator is undoable. At the top of the panel, you can see a counter. That's the layer budget for the entire garment. So this counter is shared across all the zones. 256 layers. Now that you know what layers are and how to add them, let's see how to use them. When a new layer is added, it will appear in the texture viewport of its zone. Once the layer is selected, you can position your sprite or text either by adjusting the values in the selected layer panel at the bottom, or, my favorite way, by directly dragging it in the texture viewport. There are 5 handles that let you modify your layer directly in the texture viewport. The top handle lets you rotate the layer, while the corner handle lets you scale the layer uniformly. And these 3 handles stretch the layer left, right, bottom, one direction at a time, so the opposite edge stays exactly where you put it. In addition to all these, every slider has an input field where you can type your exact desired value into. These 2 buttons flip the sprite horizontally and vertically. You can press them as many times as you want. The layer tint is self-explanatory, but what you should know is that on a white sprite, it's not just a tint, but the sprite color itself. Every layer also has its own opacity. And with this big toggle right here, you can force the opacity of the layer independently from the zone own opacity. Let me demonstrate. If I lower the zone opacity, all the layers are impacted by the transparency. But if I toggle the force own opacity on a layer, the layer will use its own opacity value, meaning that you can reshape the clothing 3D with those kind of layers, or make multiple types of sheer fabrics on the same zone. Finally, the last setting in the layer panel is this special FX dropdown. In my current version, there are 2 FX options. Yours might have more if I've added new ones since recording this tutorial. The first option is Outline. It's pretty self-explanatory. It adds an outline to your layer. FX amount controls the outline thickness in pixels, and the outline color picker lets you choose its color. The second option is Blur. It softens the entire layer. FX amount controls the number of Gaussian blur passes applied. Now that we've covered the basics of layers, let's take a closer look at sprites. Chapter 4, Sprites. To add a new sprite layer, you click on this button. When you add a new sprite layer, the sprite browser automatically opens so you can select the sprite you want. The first time it opens, it defaults to the All category, which displays every available sprite grouped by category. You can click any category on the left to filter the sprites you want to see. At the top, you have a search bar, a button to select the sorting mode, and a Refresh Mods button. As you can see, each sprite has a small gray star in the top left corner. Clicking the star turns it yellow and adds the sprite to the favorites category. Alternatively, you can simply right-click anywhere on the sprite tile to toggle the star. It's faster. Those favorites are saved permanently, even after closing the game. You can also remove them the same way you added them. The recent category contains everything you've used during the current session, with the most recently used sprites first. Then the last category at the bottom is Mods. That's where you'll find your custom textures and community-made textures. To use a custom texture, simply place your PNG file inside the Symbols folder, located in the Clothing folder, which itself is inside the Mods folder in the game's persistent directory. And if you want everyone to be able to use your custom texture, you can share it as a mod through lucidlust.net/UGC_submit. This allows anyone downloading your garment to also get your modded textures as dependencies. You can also share texture mods without using them yourself, of course. Once approved, they will be available for download through the Lucid launcher for everyone to enjoy. That's all there is to know about sprites for now. Now let's take a look at text layers. Chapter 5, Text. To add a new text layer, you click on this button. Text is a layer like any other, with all the same parameters as the sprite. But there is an extra panel at the bottom. A text field lets you type whatever you want, and a dropdown lets you change the font used by the text. You can color it, move it, mirror it. It has exactly the same options as sprites. Special effects also work. If you color it black, blur it, and duplicate it several times, you can create a nice drop shadow effect. So yeah, everything that works on a sprite works on text, including the blend modes, which we are going to cover in the next chapter. Chapter 6, Blend Modes. When you have a layer selected, you can see a blending mode dropdown at the top of the layer panel. Every layer has a blend mode. Simply put, it controls how the layer blends with everything underneath it. By default, a layer is set to normal mode. You can also see the current mode in brackets next to the layer's name. The first 15 blending modes are the same ones you'll find in any typical image editor. Normal just sits on top, multiply darkens. Screen is the opposite. It lightens and black disappears completely. Overlay keeps the fabric's own shading showing through. Add, soft light, and hard light are strange blending modes I never use, but I'm sure they will be useful to at least one of you. Difference and exclusion invert what's underneath. Color dodge blows out the highlights. Color burn crushes the shadows. Darken and lighten compare pixel by pixel and keep whichever wins. Darken keeping the darkest and lighten keeping the lightest. And then there are the last two. These are color modes, so you can't know them from Photoshop. First is the mask mode. It lets you use another layer as an alpha mask. With this mode enabled, the layer takes its transparency from the first visible layer underneath it. Where that layer is solid, this one is solid. Where it fades out, this one fades with it. And the layer underneath disappears, because its job is now to be the shape of the mask layer. So put down a soft gradient, put an image on top, switch it to mask, and the image is now that shape with those soft edges. You can do a lot of things with this mode. It's the single most powerful blending mode there is to layering things. The last blending mode is called Hole. With this mode, your layer will simply cut a hole into the garment. As all the other blending modes, it works both on sprites and text. That's your holes, rips, cutouts, whatever you need. This blending mode lets you change the 3D shape of the garment. And because effects happen before blending, a blurred layer still works with every mode. For example, the outline of a mask layer will also be masked, and you can blur the layer used by the mask layer to give you soft-edged cutouts of anything. And that's it for the 2D side of the garment creator. Now let's move on to the 3D side and see how everything can come together. Chapter 7, Shapes. We have seen that you can totally customize the 2D of a garment, but you can also customize its 3D. At the bottom left corner of your screen, you have two panels, gameplay shapes and garment shapes. Every garment has its own shapes, and I can add new shapes to existing garments in the future. Gameplay shapes are straightforward. They are not saved, they are just here to preview what you will be able to make the garment do during a scenario. You will be able to use as many of them as you want in your scenario, so you can create effects like realistic undressing, for example. At the top of the panel, there's a reset button for the entire panel. Now the garment shapes panel is much more interesting. You can drag this double arrow icon to make the panel smaller or taller depending on what you are working on. Those shapes are what define the 3D of your garment. For example, these two first one let you roll the hems of the garment. These ones make the garment looser here and there. That last one completely modifies the back length. You should play with them to see what they do and if you need them or not. These shapes are part of the garment. They are saved into the card. And as seen in the character creator, if a slider doesn't go far enough, you can type past it. The box takes any number, even negative ones, and the slider rescales itself around what you set. So that's about it. Custom sliders for every garment with limitless values. Chapter 8, Saving. On the top bar, there is a button to save the garment. From time to time, you should remember to save so that you don't lose your progression due to a crash. What you see in the top right corner is the actual card preview. The color panel in the bottom left corner lets you customize the card's background color, while the ratio buttons let you choose the format you want to use. The horizontal stacked format works well for a wide or small garment like this one, while the vertical side-by-side format is better suited for things like pants or robes. You can cancel the save process by clicking the cancel button, or open the cards folder directly from here to quickly rename, edit, delete, or share your cards. Once you're happy with what you see, click on Capture First Shot. You'll then need to position everything one more time to capture the second shot of the card. This lets you show off more of your garment, for example, a front view and a back view, or a close-up alongside a full body shot. It depends on your garment and what you want to show off. Unlike character cards, you don't need to give your garment card a name, unless you want to share it, of course. Once it's saved, you'll have a garment card in PNG format that you can share anywhere, but preferably on lucidlust.net. Any card shared and approved on lucidlust.net is automatically added to the Lucid launcher for everyone to enjoy your card by the click of a button. Just like character cards, garment cards contain everything you've created and remain fully editable. Even the text and hidden layers are saved inside the card. All the garments you've seen in this video are already available to download through the launcher and on lucidlust.net. Download them, open them up, take them apart, and see how they're built. That's one of the fastest ways to learn. Some people learn best by jumping in and experimenting, while others prefer watching someone else's workflow first. If you're the second type, let's create the garments you saw in the intro. Chapter 9: Workflow Showcase.